Welcome back. All right, so video I want to do today. I do this usually once, maybe twice a year too, and I'm doing this early enough that we can revisit this later on in the season and see if anything changes. But there are teams that I enjoy watching. There are teams that can be tough to watch, and there are broadcast teams I really enjoy where their teams aren't necessarily the most fun to watch or tough to watch this year. So I wanted to cover as much as I could here. So we'll start off with the excellent broadcasts. These are not going to be teams you see in the fun to watch category or the tough to watch category. At number 4, Carolina. Now, they're fun to watch, sure. But Carolina really does have very good production, very well done show in general. I do enjoy their shows. The team itself on the ice can be frustrating at points. They can be fun to watch at others. So depending on the part of the season, and it may change in game. They may be having trouble scoring, and then all of a sudden they break through and get a few goals, and that can be kind of fun. But yeah, Carolina, their broadcast team, I have at 4. At 3, I have Vegas. So again, if you see teams here, you're not going to see them here or here. Vegas, there is the enjoyment of they have a really good team. They have great hockey people that are around that broadcast crew and part of that broadcast crew. It may also have something to do with the fact that it's in Las Vegas. I love the city of Las Vegas, and I love the shots of the Strip. So anytime that I'm watching a game and there's a shot of the Strip, I just I just feel like, hey, I've been there and I miss being there, and we'll be back again next summer in all likelihood. Fingers crossed. But yeah, Vegas I think does a very good job. Very good production, well made show. And I'm saying show because I guess this it's what they are. Number 2, I'm going to put St. Louis at number 2. Of course, everybody knows that I think Panger is fantastic as a color announcer. They have a very well done show overall. And even when Panger's not there are times where Panger's not the color announcer, where he's on ESPN or TNT, and then they have somebody else in there instead. It's still an excellent broadcast. St. Louis does very well. It is fun to watch. And so again, this is about the broadcasts that when they start up. So if I have a choice between two different broadcasts, and I'm like, well, I have a choice between the Blues feed or the feed for that, I'm going to go with the Blues feed. And then number 1, to the surprise of no one, is Detroit. And I say to the surprise of no one because all of a sudden Detroit, which is a team that there were complaints about the broadcasts and everything, was the same guys too. I would say like 5 years ago. They've really come into their own now. Mickey Redmond is an absolute treasure. And so no matter whether Detroit's fun to watch or tough to watch that night, the crew's fantastic and Mickey Redmond, I'm guaranteed that if I watch the entire Detroit game, I will crack up at least a few times from Mickey Redmond's stories, and when he stops himself while he's telling a story, and geez, when they allow a goal, they shouldn't just his ugh, like it's just he can barely hide his revulsion at some of the things that happen. Now it's better now. Detroit's a better team than they were a few years ago, but it was tough a few years ago. I felt bad for Mickey, so it's nice to see the team doing better for Mickey Redmond, if not for anything else. So those are the 4 excellent broadcasts teams you're not going to see in the fun to watch or tough to watch. We'll go with the tough to watch first. Number 5 on the list, I'm putting Anaheim. We knew Anaheim wasn't going to be in the playoffs, right? We had no doubt that Anaheim, they're not ready for the playoffs. They're still in the rebuild. It's still tough to watch. This is a team that has trouble scoring, has trouble keeping the puck out of their net. Their special teams has been a misadventure. This has been a long season if you're an Anaheim fan already. And so, yeah, I'm going to put Anaheim at 5th on the list because it's fun to watch a team even if they're not necessarily winning, as long as there's some rays of hope there. And I know McTavish has had some good moments, and Zegers is still Zegers, but yeah, it's been a tough one. Number 4 on the tough to watch list, Columbus. Columbus was supposed to be better this year, and it's supposed to work, and I'm not sure why it's not, but I look at the lineup with the start of the games, and I'm like, I don't know how they're going to win this one, and then they often don't. They won their last couple. They might be turning it around. Johnny Gaudreau, it feels like, has really started to figure it out with his teammates. I heard an interesting stat that apparently it can take 6 months for a player to really fully acclimate to a new team, which makes some sense. And then that's part of the reason I feel bad for a player when they're traded multiple times or waived multiple times over a period of like 6, 8 weeks. Trades like that are very rare now. Used to be more common back in the day. But yeah, when a guy gets waived multiple times, I'm thinking, really, you didn't see anything in those 2 games to make you want to keep them. That's too bad. And then they're waived and over and over and over again. So for Columbus, it's been a pretty tough first quarter of the season, almost like what, first third now, and yeah, it could be tough to watch. Number three, this is changing. If I had done this, I would say 2 weeks ago, Ottawa probably would have been number one. It's been a little better with a couple of wins here, but still, this is a team that you can feel should be winning more games than they are. They've had no luck whatsoever on the ice. And, I don't want to make excuses for them because I understand there are other teams going through tougher times and teams definitely having more injury problems than Ottawa is. But when you're losing games you shouldn't be losing, it has to be really frustrating as a player. And it can be tough to watch when you're seeing Ottawa pouring shots on the net, really big key shots, and that goaltender's playing great. Puck goes the other way, it's in the net. And you go, well, that was a fast break goal. The defense blew their coverage there, and they left Talbot hung out to dry. It can be tough. It can be tough to watch that because Ottawa might dominate 60-65% of a game and still lose it. Number two on the board, the New York Rangers. The Rangers were supposed to be pretty good this year. They were a Final Four team last spring. So it is tough to watch what's gone on with them and just how quickly everything is kind of just fallen apart. I do think that adding Trocheck to the lineup, a good move overall, but has it paid off? No. So I understand, and I'm fine with the contract that he got, but has it paid off to this point? No. And as I mentioned earlier, of course, if that 6-month figure is correct, that would explain a lot. But for the Rangers, they don't have 6 months to get everybody acclimated because the expectation is to be in the playoffs, and if it takes 6 months, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. So I'm really surprised with the Rangers. Last night's game against Chicago was quite surprising. When the 8 games were on early, I had the Philadelphia game and the Chicago game on the computer, so I heard way more of that. So if you watch the review, you're thinking, why is there a lot more notes with the Rangers game and the Flyers game? Because those were the ones that I heard and saw the most of actually last night. And yeah, for the Rangers, it was tough. They went a long time where they held Chicago off. They weren't even getting shots. The Blackhawks weren't even getting shots, and yet they still lost in the end. And number one on the board, to the surprise of no one, is Vancouver. It has been brutal watching Canucks games. I have actually been dreading watching certain Canucks games. And the funny thing is, they've been winning games that I've been dreading them playing. And then other ones where I'm like, well, they should win that one. They lose. So for Vancouver, it's really been a mixed bag of rocks. It's been a mixed bag of rocks. So I'm not a fan of getting a bag of rocks. And I feel like with the Canucks right now, it's been a bag of rocks. That's how much fun it is. It's as fun as playing with a bag of rocks. And not the kind of rocks either you can smack somebody with. But yeah, I say that like that's just a common thing. But yeah, the Canucks I think are the toughest watch. Now we get into the most fun because I like to get into the positive. Number 10, the Islanders. The Islanders have been better this year and they've been more fun to watch. I would not have put the Islanders on a fun to watch list with Barry Trotz as coach, but with Lane Lambert I will. I think offensively there's more creativity being shown by the Islanders this year than last year. I think they've been allowed to be a little more on their own and unleashed from those systems they were under, especially Barzal. And I know everybody points to Barzal's goal totals. Oh, they're too low. But he's getting a ton of assists and he's driving a lot of the play. He's getting a lot of really good offensive looks out there. So the puck's going to start going in. I think he's got 3 goals right now over their last, 5 games? Something like that. But for the Islanders, they are a lot more fun to watch than they should be. Number 9, Arizona. Yep. So that's why I'm wearing a Coyotes jersey, because Arizona is actually fun to watch. Arizona was not supposed to be as good as they've been. I also understand that for Coyotes fans, this road trip might be tough to watch in parts. But for me, as a fan watching a team that's supposed to be easily the worst in the league, they're really not. And so while they're not that far from the bottom of the league, I think they're playing well, and I think they're enjoyable to watch. There's a lot of good young kids in this lineup. They've got good goaltending. I do think there's the makings of a good team with Arizona. They have to add the right players. They have to get some draft picks in there, and they have to see their prospects through their system and with their development. However, yeah, Arizona's been fun to watch already, and so I am optimistic about their future. Number 8, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is fun to watch, and this doesn't matter how you feel about them. And I want them to go away. No. Tampa Bay is a fun team to watch. They have so many stars in their lineup, and they do go on a bit of scoring binges here and there. And I still feel like they haven't peaked yet. So while they're playing very, very well, I still don't think Tampa Bay has peaked yet. So I'm anxious to see just how good this team can be, which of course will make everybody really, really happy. The idea of Tampa Bay being a contending team again for the fourth Stanley Cup playoffs in a row. Technically fifth if you include 2019 where they had the fantastic record, but of course they went out in the first round that year. So I'm just doing 2020, 2021, 2022, and now potentially 2023. Number 7 on the board, Buffalo. Now, if this was overall entertainment value when they're winning or they're losing, Buffalo might be number 1 on the board. But when Buffalo's on, and when their young guns are clicking, and when Alex Tuck is getting those stretch passes, and Tage Thompson is going beast mode, it is a ton of fun to watch. The Buffalo Sabres may not make the playoffs this year. Right now, of course, they're below 500. It's unlikely they make the playoffs, but they're still a lot of fun to watch. I know that Buffalo fans aren't showing up. I get it. I understand why. But I do think this team is going to be different. I feel like this is the one that's going to turn into a playoff team, and they're going to be good. It's just probably not going to be this year. The consistency can be an issue when you're dealing with younger players, right? So that's the thing. Number 6 on the board, Winnipeg. I hadn't expected Winnipeg to be one of the more fun teams to watch this year when they got Rick Bowness as coach. I would have been expecting them to be kind of boring to watch, but they haven't been. They really haven't been. They've been a lot of fun to watch. Kyle Connor, the puck started going in the net for him. Hellebuck's having a fantastic year. There's the Riddick question of how much they trust him as the backup, how much they should trust him as the backup. But in general, Winnipeg is just playing really, really well overall. And so for Winnipeg, it has been fun to watch them so far this year. Number 5 on the board, Montreal. Montreal, with Marty St. Louis behind the bench, is always going to be fun to watch. Suzuki and Caulfield, the chemistry they have, same. Jack-Eye, the hits, the fights, yes. The really all over the place goaltending kind of makes them more entertaining to watch too. Like one night the goaltending stats are fantastic, the next night they're middling or bad, and you just don't know what you're going to get with them. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Another team that may miss the playoffs, but you can see the nucleus of a good team there. A team that's going to turn things around, maybe sooner than we thought. And yeah, so I have Montreal number 5 on the fun to watch list. Number 4, I hadn't expected this one either, Seattle. Now, Seattle also has the excellent broadcasts. In fact, I'll pause for a moment here. There are excellent broadcasts dotted throughout here. I think Vancouver's is an underrated broadcast. The Rangers, classic broadcast from the Rangers. Ottawa, you have Gord Miller. He's a very good announcer. Columbus, I think while their announcers are usually ranked low, I think part of it is the Columbus factor where people don't talk about Columbus a lot. I think their announcers are fine. Anaheim, it's fun to listen to their announcers. I would also throw out there Pittsburgh's not going to be on this board, but Bob Airey and his basically wearing a Penguins jersey while he's calling the games. I know he's not actually wearing one, but he should be because it is crazy to listen to some of the stuff with Bob Airey where I'm like, seriously, Bob, you didn't think that was a penalty? Come on. Oh, you didn't see the penalty? Come on now. Come on, just be honest. So and yeah, it is been entertaining for that reason. But and then over here, Islanders are good. Arizona, Tyson Nash is always fun to listen to. At least for me. You've got Randorf calling the games for Tampa Bay. Love Randorf. Buffalo has definitely lost something with the retirement of Rick Jeanneret, but thankfully they've still got Rob Ray, who's fantastic. Winnipeg has lost something with the retirement of their announcer as well, but I think the replacement's been just fine. Although he sounds a lot like Gord Miller. I hear it, I'm like, is Gord Miller calling this guy? Oh, right, it's the new guy. Montreal's announcers, absolutely fine. And Seattle, like I said, excellent announcers. You got Forsland. JT Brown has gotten a lot better than he was when he started. Eddie Olczyk, it's still kind of odd to hear Olczyk calling the games with Seattle. But I mean, it's okay. It's fine. It's different. But yeah, the 3-person announced crews can be tough. But I think with Seattle, I think they do well enough. Number 3 on the board for fun teams to watch, Dallas. And their announcers, Daryl Ray is fantastic. Love Daryl Ray. And yeah, there's a little bit of a bias in this because Dallas is, of course, one of my favorite teams. But they are fun to watch. If you watch Dallas games, again, and this is from a neutral perspective, trying to get it from a neutral perspective, I do my best. But if you watch a Dallas game, they're fun to watch. They're the excitement, the just the generating of offense, the really solid goaltending they've had for the most part. I'm going to back up. I think it was Steve Dangle that talked about how Wedgwood's played well, and then co-hosts look up the stats and say, "Oh no, Wedgwood's numbers aren't." And you're saying he's great. I think his save percentage is 906 or 902, and he has been very good. Steve's right about that. Dallas has had good performances throughout their lineup. And while there are a couple of players you might be able to pick apart and say, well, he hasn't had a great year, honestly, it's been so much fun to watch. I don't know how far it's going to go. At some point, things turn the other way, usually do in an 82-game schedule, but they're fun right now. Number 2 on the board, and again, Boston. So this is where it's interesting. I have Vancouver as the toughest one to watch. Dallas and Boston are 2 of the most fun to watch. Last year, towards the end of the year, Vancouver would have been on this part of the board. Boston, and here's the thing. Boston's fun to watch, but I will usually pick the broadcast team that's not NESN if I have a choice between 2 different feeds. Very often I just have the choice of the NESN feed because Sportsnet often broadcasts that. But yeah, the Bruins are fun to watch for obvious reasons. 14 wins in a row at home, and just the way they're winning, and it is ridiculous how good they've looked. And so yeah, Boston's been a lot of fun to watch, which brings us to number 1. And it's New Jersey. The New Jersey Devils weren't supposed to be this good. I think it's been great. And what's great, too, is that New Jersey has been, doing, like they had Ken Danico, they had a night for him. And they do keep tabs on former players who were parts of the Stanley Cup teams in 95, 2000, 2003. And they really keep that history as part of the current product. And I think it helps. I do. I think it helps. I think there's a tradition New Jersey has baked in there that I think has been part of why things have been going so well so far. And I think they've got the right balance in their lineup between the experienced players and the young players. It's a great lineup from top to bottom. And all 4 lines are working, all 6 defensemen. Doesn't matter who's in net. Oh, Schmid's in net? That's fine. They'll get a great game from him, and they do. So, yeah, those are, to me, the most fun teams to watch, the toughest to watch, and 4 excellent broadcasts I wanted to talk about as well. So that's just from me as somebody who watches every game, just the ones that when they start up, I will say, first off, I'll say the Bally's theme is still pretty terrible, but I've kind of gotten used to it. I could do without the Bet Rivers commercial every 5 seconds. I could do without all of the betting commercials every 45 seconds. But I understand that's where a lot of the income it comes from right now with National Hockey League, just sports in general. The gambling betting is really, really prominent now. But yeah, once you get past the gambling commercials, you have your broadcast teams, and there's some that are really fun to watch and some that aren't. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which team have you most enjoyed watching this year so far? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.